All right, guys, we're going to talk about why ankle mobility is important after an ankle sprain. Everyone mentions work on your ankle mobility, but in today's video, we're actually going to describe the reasoning behind why it's actually important after an ankle sprain. My name is Dr. Marco Lopez, Doctor of Physical Therapy and Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, and co-founder of the Basketball Doctors. So let's jump into our topic of why ankle mobility is important after an ankle sprain. All right, guys, before we go into mobility, let's introduce the ankle anatomy and as it relates to an ankle sprain. So when you sprain your ankle, normally the most classic one is a lateral ankle sprain. So your ankle rolls out to the side. So when it rolls out to the side, there's a couple impairments that normally happen with that. So one, you lose your mobility. Two, you lose your strength. And three, you also lose your stability. We're really going to be focusing on mobility in today's video. But if you want to learn more about ankle sprain rehab and just overall ankle sprains, click the link in our description below. We have a great video on all things ankle sprains. But when we talk about mobility, there's two main mobility aspects that we're going to be talking about. One, we have the plantarflexion, dorsiflexion, so just going up and down here. Then we have the pronation, supination. So let's break those down. All right, guys, the first one we're going to go over is dorsiflexion range of motion. So the ability for the ankle to bend forward this way. So after an ankle sprain, studies have shown, and you've seen it with hundreds of athletes, is once you sprain your ankle, you lose the ability to bend your ankle forward. When you lose the ability to bend your ankle forward, what happens then now is you can't do this. Then what's going to happen is the knee's going to have to take a lot of the stress. Two is whenever you land or anything, when you land, you see how my ankle bends? Because my ankle can't bend, then it's going to rotate, to do anything to avoid this position, is going to cause reoccurring ankle sprains. So that's why we really have to be working on that dorsiflexion range of motion. Another thing too is whenever we're squatting and doing any movements like that, if we don't have good dorsiflexion going this way, what we're going to do is we're going to overpronate because our foot's going to turn this way. And what happens when we turn this way, now we increase more stress up the chain because now we're overpronating. We're rotating our tibia, and then we had a rotation in our knee, and that causes a little bit more stress to the knee than it should be, and it changes all your mechanics in that way. And the other aspect of mobility that we need to cover is plantar flexion. So we talked about dorsiflexion, that when that gets limited, it affects everything up the chain. When it comes to plantar flexion, which is the one that has the least attention, is when you lose this mobility to go this way, you won't have the full calf raise that we need to have. And when you don't have that full calf raise that we need to have, because when you do a calf raise, you need to go into plantar flexion, your heel needs to leave the ground. When we don't have enough mobility there, we're not going to be able to get that full calf raise. And when we don't have that full calf raise, our calf gets weaker. And our calf needs to be strong enough to absorb force when we're landing from a jump, even pushing off. When we talk about triple extension for performance, when we load, we also need to explode. And when we explode, everything extends. And if you don't have good plantar flexion, you're not going to be having all the energy that we need going up. So that's another aspect. And then when it comes to injury wise, when we don't have that good range of motion there, good strength there, it increases our stress here in our Achilles tendon. And that's why we have Achilles tendinopathy injuries, because our calf's not strong enough. We don't have that good, powerful contraction of our calf. The last aspect of ankle mobility, why it's important after an ankle sprain, is the midfoot. So I classify that more, that pronation, supination. So whenever you're walking, you have to go through pronation and supination. Your foot comes in and then opens up, meaning your arch collapses a little bit, then it opens up. And the importance of this is because this is a coupled motion, so it all has to work together because our foot has to be able to lock and unlock. So this is very important after an ankle sprain. And a lot of times after an ankle sprain, we see that, like I mentioned, when you lose mobility here, then we start overpronating too much, and then we don't have good supination, or vice versa. Sometimes when we have issues with too much supination, we can't go into pronation. So the big thing is we really got to make sure this midfoot has good mobility in order to pronate, supinate, because whenever we do a squat or any single leg movement, we're going to have to go through pronation, supination. So that's a big aspect of why this part of the mobility is important after an ankle sprain. All right, guys, to summarize why ankle mobility is important after an ankle sprain. Like I mentioned, everyone talks about it, but we discussed why. So we need dorsiflexion in order to have our normal loading patterns and to decrease our risk for future ankle sprains. Number two, we need that plantar flexion to have that powerful contraction of our calf muscle in order to decrease your risk for Achilles tendonitis, tendinopathy, and get that triple extension. We also need to have that pronation, supination in order to lock and unlock our foot, absorb force, and propel force up. So those are the main reasons why you need to be working on your mobility after an ankle sprain. If you guys have any questions regarding mobility following an ankle sprain, or you feel your ankle is stuck, comment below. We'll try to see how we can help you answer that question. If you guys want to work with us, we work with people online or in person in Southern California. Send us a DM or send us an email, and we'll try to see if we can help you out. We also have a great ankle sprain rehab program. Click the link in our description. Great for anyone dealing with any ankle sprains or just want to get back their mobility. We are the Basketball Doctors. Let's ball for life.